He once played the drums faster than anyone else in the world. It was his job to teach at Berklee. He was the only drummer who could play Dream Theater's difficult songs correctly on his first try and keep up that level for more than 10 years. Mike Mangini does more than play drums. He's a rhythm machine that was set by the mind. But there is a truth that isn't as well known that lies behind the stage lights and professional praise. Mangini used to be so scared of acting that as a child he hid in a tree. He used to write code for missile defense systems, but he quit those jobs to chase some drumsticks. He was once praised as the best drummer ever, but then he was replaced quietly and without notice. Mike Mangini picks silence in the rock world that is all about noise. Nothing bad happens, and no one gets upset, not even when they are deeply hurt. And it was that silence that made him one of the most admired drummers, not because he was famous, but because he knew a lot and was honest like an artist should be. He is now 60 years old and is starting over with a solo record. He is leaving Dream Theater behind and still plays the drums. Not so he could get praise, but because he never stopped. Why would someone who was good at technical glory not want to be famous? Why is Mike Mangini so unique that he became a hero even when he was quiet? Childhood. He was born on April 18, 1963, in Newton, Massachusetts, and grew up in the nearby town of Waltham. It was in the basement of his family home that he heard his first drum beats. Mangini started tapping his drumsticks on pillows when he was 2.5 years old. He then moved on to kitchen pans and finally anything that could make a sound. He wasn't taught. He just played rhythms like Ringo Starr did on TV, and they all sounded good. Both of his parents weren't artists. Mangini was different from his family, who respected schoolwork, order, and stability. The little boy was very quiet and didn't say much. Instead, he lost himself for hours in the world of rhythm, which made him both curious and obsessed. For him, what other people called noise was the only way to connect with the world. Still, he had a constant fear as a child, stage fright. At one party, Mangini was asked to play the drums for the friends of his parents. He ran away from home, climbed a tree, and refused to come down. He didn't want to play. He didn't do it well because he wasn't skilled, but because he was afraid of being seen. After that, his social anxiety followed him around like a shadow for years, making every performance on stage a real fight inside him. Mangini was very good at science and math. His sensible father told him that computer science would be good for his future, so that's what Mangini did. After going to Berklee University and graduating with honors, he got a job writing software for the Patriot missile defense system. A new dream for someone who hadn't dreamed about drums since they were 2 years old. But his mind was still beating on something behind the lines of code and control systems. The beats were still there, but they weren't loud or urgent. There was a quiet kind of fight in Mike Mangini's childhood between what other people expected of him and the call of music. Between how software works and how rhythm makes your heart beat. And in the end, he picked the road that was less clear, quieter, harder, and more honest. Early in your work. Mike Mangini didn't quit his job as a software engineer on the spur of the moment when he decided to start playing the drums again. Someone did it because they had tried to live a normal life and were sure they couldn't. He no longer thought of music as a faraway dream. There was no doubt about the calling. He began all over again at a time when most people were beginning to settle down with office jobs, pensions, and health plans. Mangini got his start in the professional music world by playing in bands that required him to have the highest level of technical skill. He joined Annihilator, which was one of the biggest thrash metal acts in Canada in the 1990s. And made his name by playing the drums faster than most people can. Then he substituted Paul Geary on Extreme and shocked everyone right away with precision and energy that seemed almost like it was controlled by a machine. Mangini was different, though, not because he played faster than anyone else. It was about knowing what he was doing better than anyone else. He thought about rhythm like a method of logic, while most drummers just went with their gut. He didn't just play the drums, he also studied them, asked questions about them, and made up ideas about them. People came up with rhythm knowledge as a way to help drummers learn more than just patterns. It uses biology, music theory, and psychology to help drummers understand rhythm from its roots. He got a job teaching at Berklee College of Music, which is one of the best music schools in the world, because of this attitude. Mike Mangini went from being a child who was afraid of the stage to a teacher who inspired hundreds of students, not just with his amazing skills but also with how he overcame his own fears. By the end of the 2000s, he was a well-known name among professional drummers. He is never flashy or loud, but he is always in the right places, like on stage with Steve Vai and James LaBrie or in workshops, classrooms, and how-to books. There was no fame at the start of Mike Mangini's work. At first, there were only quiet, steady drum beats, just like the man himself. Success in your job. On October 10, 2010, Mike Mangini walked into a room with John Petrucci, John Myung, and Jordan Rudess already there. He was facing a huge drum kit, dozens of microphones, and a task that most drummers around the world would only dare to see on TV while trying out to replace Mike Portnoy, the first drummer for Dream Theater, which is one of the most highly advanced bands in the world. Few people thought Mangini would be a good fit, which is why he was. In the video recording of the tryout, Mangini sat behind the drum kit and didn't look at the music or warm up. He was so good at playing Dream Theater songs that it seemed like they were written just for him. The looks on Petrucci and Myung's faces changed over time from doubt to shock. Mangini not only played the parts right, but he did it in a way that made even Portnoy smile. It was an important time. He was the new heartbeat of Dream Theater. He used to run away from acting when he was 6 years old. It wasn't easy for him to start making music with the band after their 2011 album A Dramatic Turn of Events. It happened at a time when the band was getting a lot of attention. Can Dream Theater still be Dream Theater without Portnoy? Surprisingly, the record did very well, and not just because of the compositions. People also liked Mangini's drumming, which added a new energy that was clean, quick, and less improvisational than Portnoy's, but still intense in its own way. After that, the band released a string of important albums, including Dream Theater, 2013, which showed that the new lineup was stable, and The Amazing 2016, it was an ambitious rock opera with dozens of tempo changes and complicated time signatures in every track. Distance Over Time, released in 2019, is a return to roots record that focuses on technicality, prog metal structure, and a view from the top of the world. 2021, his work on The Alien helped Dream Theater win their first Grammy Award after almost 40 years in the business. Mangini wasn't the flashy type when he was on stage. Not often did he stand up, and he didn't have much dramatic style. But watch how his hands move, they look like lightning strikes hitting both space and time at the same time. And you'll know why fans of Dream Theater called him the percussion wizard. Mangini did more than just play well. Using systems he built in his own mind to get past both fear and physical boundaries, he played with science and awareness. He taught all the time when he wasn't on stage. His lessons on rhythm, in which he combined rhythm with reasoning, neuroscience, and even meditation, became very important to drummers all over the world. Many young drummers learned more than just how to play like Mangini. They also learned how to think like him. And just for awards, Mike Mangini used to hold several world records for speed, including 1,203 single-stroke hand hits in 60 seconds. Matched grip. 13,221 footstrokes in 15 minutes and many awards for fastest drummer from 2002 to 2000 to 2006. But what made him unique was how he felt about those marks. He said straight out in an interview, "Speed doesn't make you an artist. If you don't know how to use speed to tell a story, it just turns you into a machine." Mike Mangini didn't join Dream Theater to take the place of someone else. He came to show that being successful doesn't have to be loud. You can be quiet, move more slowly, and speak less, and still leave a mark that can't be erased. And that's exactly what Mangini did, not because he was famous, but because he was so precise that it sent chills down my spine. Life outside of music, Mike Mangini is a rhythm machine on stage, accurate to the thousandth of a second. But in his private life, he is a man of simplicity, quiet, and great privacy. There will be no parties, scandals, or noise on social media. In a business where artists are often expected to perform even when they're not on stage, Mangini decides to leave the spotlight when she doesn't need to be there. He was married and has kids. In the few talks he's given, he's talked about how family has always been his biggest support during tough times, like when he quit Berklee to focus on Dream Theater full-time or when he had to take over for a legendary musician like Mike Portnoy. People close to him know this, even though he hasn't said much about his wife or kids. He always called home after an hour-long show, not to brag about how well he did, but just to let them know Dad was okay. A less well-known but very important part of Mangini's personal life is that he struggled with social anxiety and stage fright for a long time, from youth to adulthood. He once said that he had to learn to control his brain like he controlled his drumsticks. To do this, he had to break his thoughts up into pieces, map out his breathing, and retrain his emotional responses in his mind so that he could perform in front of thousands of people without losing it. These deep psychological events shaped rhythm knowledge as both a way to play the drums and a way of life. He once said, "I made this system not only to play the drums, but also to teach myself how to calm down, how to see chaos and find rhythm in it." Mangini loves nature and quiet things more than music in his family. He likes to go for walks by himself and look at trees. To come up with new rhythmic patterns, he often looks at natural movements that happen over and over again, like ocean waves, rain, or the spinning of a fan. That's also why, even though he's played on some of the biggest shows in the world, he still lives in a quiet suburb instead of a busy music city. Not many people know that after leaving Dream Theater, Mangini turned down several good offers to work with other artists. His reason was easy to understand. I need some time to get back to being myself. Artists are often caught in a never-ending loop of markets and expectations. Mike Mangini is one of the few people who puts their mental health and inner peace ahead of fame. He never tried to make himself seem mysterious. He really didn't need to say much. At the end of the day, Mike Mangini's personal life is like his drumming, steady, complex, and calm. Legacy and impact are the only things that matter, and never more than that. Even when they are at the top of their game, not every artist leaves behind a memory. Mike Mangini is not like that, though. He didn't need to be the most well-known, he just needed to be the most accurate, committed, and hard to replace. Technicality is often seen as cold or uncaring in the music business, but Mangini showed that it's not true. When that method is combined with a deep understanding, it can reach deeply human emotional depths. He held many world records, such as the most straight pedal hits in 15 minutes and the fastest handstrokes in 1 minute. But the world records aren't what he is most famous for. It's also not just the old records with Dream Theater or Extreme. His real impact lies in a unique aspect of drumming, the way it combines music and thought. Mangini created a way to teach called rhythm knowledge, which is more than just a way to learn how to play the drums. It includes neuroscience, psychology, math, and sound as parts of a whole structure. He breaks down difficult ideas like polyrhythms, syncopation, and odd time signatures into easy-to-understand visual modules. These have helped thousands of people around the world understand rhythms they had only felt before. In this way, Mike Mangini is more than just a drummer, he turns rhythm into words that people can understand. Young musicians such as Anup Sastry, Matt Garstka, Animals as Leaders, and Bard Kolstad, Leprous, have all said that Mangini's playing and way of thinking have had a direct effect on them. Even in Dream Theater, where every member is seen as a master, Mangini's presence marked a certain time that was marked by order, steadiness, and scientific accuracy. For Mike Portnoy, instinct and emotion were important. For Mangini, balance, organization, and accuracy were important. That difference started a whole new era for the band, though not everyone noticed it right away. Not only did Mangini have a big impact on technology, but his personal outlook also did. He has talked a lot about being humble, sticking with things, and being thankful, even when things are hard. When he quit Dream Theater in 2023, there was no anger or public criticism, even though he said he hadn't been told ahead of time. A lot of his fans called him a man of honor because he never let his feelings get in the way of his respect for music. Mike Mangini is still a sign today, even though he may not be in the news as much. Not to make noise, but to never play a note that isn't needed. He decided to play less in a world full of meaningless drum beats. Every hit, though, was meant to hurt and had an effect that would last. People don't remember Mike Mangini on stage. It lives in the way that thousands of students have come out of the darkness of anxiety, picked up some sticks, and trusted that if you know how to listen to the rhythm, music can heal you. Present-day life. No one knew where Mike Mangini would go, what he would do, or even if he would keep playing the drums after he left Dream Theater at the end of 2023. The man had worked with one of the world's most complicated bands for over 10 years and was an important part of their first Grammy win. Suddenly, he was changed without any warning. But Mangini decided to stay quiet instead of getting angry or backlashing. Then he started a new part of his life that was a surprise. He was on his own and more driven than ever. Invisible Signs, Mike Mangini's first record as a solo artist, came out on November 11, 2023. He was no longer behind John Petrucci or James Labrie, now he was in the middle, not just as a drummer but also as the producer, songwriter, and founder of the idea. The record wasn't a show of how good the musicians were. It was a statement from an artist who had grown up, broken free, and was no longer tied to the image of his old band. The songs on Invisible Signs are deeply emotional and personal. They were written with the help of respected artists such as Jen Majura, formerly of Evanescence, Gus G., Ozzy Osbourne, Firewind, Tony Dickinson, and Ivan Keller. What they said was very brave. Great things were made by Mangini without Dream Theater, and he didn't stop there. Early in 2025, Mangini stated that he was starting a new band called Monolith. It would be a progressive metal project with a modern twist and its own style. Mangini not only played drums on the first song Oligarchs, but he was also the creative force behind the whole thing. Monolith had a strong modern sound that was based in the complexity of prog, like a map Mangini had drawn a long time ago but was never allowed to bring to life. Hernan Motley Rodriguez sang lead vocals and Andy Barrow played guitar. Along with making songs, he kept doing what he loved most, which was teaching. A lot of people came to Mangini's masterclasses, which were held in places like Milan, Rome, Dubai, and Atlanta. He taught more than just how to play the drums. He also taught how to deal with panic attacks, how to train your mind to play odd time signatures, and how to train more effectively, which cut practice time in half while making it twice as effective. Every class was a chance for him to help other people go through what he had gone through slowly and by himself. When interviewed about his decision to leave Dream Theater, Mangini gave a clear and calm answer. "I understand and respect your choice. These are the right times for me to do the things I need to do. There is no anger or sorrow. Just a 62-year-old man coming out from behind a long shade with the knowledge and drive to keep playing, teaching, making art, and being himself." Mike Mangini is showing that drummers don't need bands to stay popular, which is the opposite of what many drummers think. Doesn't have to back anyone up anymore. He is himself, and he once said, "I won't stop if there's still a sound inside me that hasn't been cleared." Now that those sounds are being heard under his own name, people are starting to think that maybe Mike Mangini never really left, he's just started. Mike Mangini never tried to be the center of attention. He never needed big news stories, problems in the media, or flashy stage tricks to show how valuable he was. He picked a different path throughout his career, one that was quiet, strict, unwavering, and intellectually free. It's possible for a drummer to hold world records, teach at Berklee, play with the smartest musicians in Dream Theater, and still be as humble as a teacher in front of a class. He is one of the few artists whose skill and intelligence work well together. Someone who talks about the brain through drum beats, inspires people through skill, and heals himself through music. At a time when everyone wants to be seen, Mangini decided to dig deeper. He has never been caught up in time because of that. Mike Mangini's story shows that big wins don't have to be loud. You can play at 1,200 strokes per minute. But why are you playing? That's the more important question. Every hit is important to Mangini. It's a statement from someone who got over their fears, went beyond their past glory, and made a new path for themselves. Finally, Mike Mangini is fully himself as an artist who has nothing left to show now that he is over 60 years old and not tied to any band or institution. Have you ever heard a drum beat that made you think differently? There's a chance that will happen with Mike Mangini, and it is. Leave a message if one of his fills blew you away, if you learned something from his rhythm knowledge, or if you've just felt how he makes modern music feel different. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you like this kind of quiet but powerful journey. There are many more stories like Mike Mangini's ready to be told.